I'm Oprah as a dude, and I love you all.
All right, here we go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Reyes Reflection podcast. Don't forget to follow me on those socials at I'm Nathanael Reyes. And shout out for today's sponsors, Jocko Fuel, Mad Rabbit Tattoo Aftercare, and SMACKIN Sunflower Seeds. Check out the episode bio for exclusive deals at those sites. Sometimes you come across an artist who is a captivating individual just as much as what they do in their performance. She recently appeared on the latest season of America's Got Talent with her Parrot Gallagher, and while he was a little shy for the spotlight, he's definitely part of her journey. Her harmony and her voice that really, to the masses, show the type of person that she truly is. This guest isn't just a performer, she's a singer, songwriter with a catalog of original work, music, and songs. Have this way of telling a story, capturing emotions, and showcasing authenticity, and this guest is the true embodiment of all that. Her music resonates because it's real, heartfelt, and unapologetically her. Whether she's writing from the soul or jamming out with Gallagher, you can feel the passion and the originality in everything she does. With a recently released EP, today's guest is the talented Chloe Alexander.
Woo! Thank you so much for that intro. That is one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my whole life, and I really appreciate all those words, Nathaniel. That's awesome.
I pride myself on these intros. I stay up all night writing them down and perfecting them. So it's an honor when I hear somebody say, that intro was the best one. It took my breath away. Thank you so much. So
Good. And also I really appreciate just speaking about my original music. I'm so excited to talk about everything today with you.
yeah, and we'll go into it all. I'm a little insecure. We talked about it off camera. I have a massive scar, roughhousing with my dog. Gallagher has he ever roughed you up with his little?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if you can still see it, but I have a scar right here.
Yeah.
When I kissed him good morning one time, and he like hung from my lip like this.
No.
You could even probably see it from the inside too.
So he was giving you a kiss back, but he latched on.
But he gave me a lip piercing instead.
Yeah, a puncture. Yeah, my dog, he was playing with me. We were all excited. Then he jumps up. He does a quick swipe up to try to, like, play with me, and he just gets me. But as you said, it looks badass, and I look like Scar from Lion King.
We were just talking about how Lion King is inspired from Shakespeare. And you were talking about how you're not a bookworm. You read, like, the first couple of sentences from...
Oh, man, you put me on blast. I thought because that wasn't recorded that we were able to skip over that. But, yeah, all right, I guess I'm going to have to own up to it. Yeah, I don't read books, and in high school, I glanced over at the first two chapters, the middle two and the last two. That was my signature move of how I was able to shirk the responsibilities of reading in English class.
Yeah.
So I heard somebody once tell me that Lion King was Shakespeare or is heavily influenced by Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But from someone who loved that movie, I never saw it, and nor do I understand that reference just because I don't know Shakespeare whatsoever.
Yeah. I as well cheated pretty much up until high school just because it's impossible to keep up with everything that they throw at you in school. And then I finally started kind of doing school on my own. And then I was like, oh, this stuff is actually cool. Wish they weren't so pushy about it, and I would have actually read that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. I feel like it's a human's innate reaction to rebel when you're being told you have to do this. I don't care if you like it or not, you have to do this. And when I'm in high school, I don't want to learn a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I want to talk to my friends, and I feel like that's just a challenging time for everyone. So yeah, school wasn't my strong suit. I was there for the socialization aspect of it, and that's where I thrived. As you can see here, that's what I do for work now, as I talk for a living.
You do awesome, though. I mean, there's definitely when you can tell people who are made for this, and I get that energy from you. And then that's just how we artists are. We can't be told what to do. And I think the best ones learn how to keep rebelling all the way up until they get what they want in life.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great compliment. I will lots of practice for sure. Just like I said, talking in high school and college. So time's gone the second you give it. Thanks for giving me some of yours today. We'll get rolling with who you are now, Chloe. So, Chloe, before stages and spotlights, what kind of kid were you before you got into music?
Um, I think I was just a really curious kid. I was told that I was super. My mom used to have a daycare with my neighbors, and I pretty much was the bossy leader. I was always kind of like a leader, and um, I guess like kind of hurting the kids around, and then when I was younger though, we did end up like losing our home and having to move away from everything. So then I just became really to myself, because of the situation that we were met with. And I always just kind of kept to myself. I think I was always like an individual.
Was it like a life altering move? Like, did circumstances happen which caused that move and which caused that change, that big change in your life?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
um, when I was young, up until 5 years old, um, my parents got a divorce
Yeah.
around that time, and due to just stuff between them, we lost our house and they separated, and we had to move in with my grandpa. And it was life altering, not just for me but also for my mom, because she had to lose everything as well. It definitely took a huge weight on both of our souls, and having to start over in a new town as well. And it was just like, it was just starting over. And I was also very young, and didn't I guess like things just weren't the same ever since, but that was okay because I got to, I guess, continue a new life. And yeah.
Divorce is tough. I coming from a quote unquote broken family myself. I understand that, right? Like I grew up in one city, I loved it. All my cousins were there. Then my folks split. My mom went up north. My dad stayed there. We lived with my mom, so I kind of lost all the connection with all my friends, all my cousins, all my extended family,
Right.
and it's tough. But in hindsight, right, we can look back on it now and be like, hey, that was we needed that experience of life because we wouldn't be where we're at, today, of course. But at the time, man, it does suck. Like I remember being like, "What do you mean, mom and dad? You're not gonna be together? Why not?" Like, and it's so hard for a child to understand that concept, right? Because I think when I was growing up, every TV show I watched, the mom and dad were together, even if the dad was a putz, like The Simpsons.
Yeah,
You watch that,
they just made it bad, and
they're together.
the mom would withstand it, and in real,
Yes.
mom doesn't withstand it. She ends up divorcing him.
Yeah. You're right about that. No, for sure. Like at a certain point, it's like, no, this is too much stupid shit for me. Like you didn't,
Yeah.
you gotta change. You gotta change. You gotta grow up a little bit, man. Yeah.
Just so that's what real life is, not Family Guy. But anyway.
I mean, Family Guy is real life to me. I quote that 90% of the time. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Love that show though. Um, do you remember the first time you got into music then? Because obviously you had this life changing event, and a lot of times people will try to find an outlet, right? And sometimes they turn into things that are not beneficial. But I love when I hear stories like yours of turning to music, turning to art, turning to a form of creativity so that way you're not being self destructive. So, do you remember a time when you first jumped into music? Was it earlier than that? I'm just curious about your music path now or how you discovered music.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where, like, before moving, my dad was always he was a singer, and he was a singer from India. And so that was where I got my, I guess, like, legacy from, was him, because I'd always known I was going to be a singer because my dad was a singer. But when my parents divorced, I became really, really shy. But before that, I was singing all around the house, and my mom was like, "Oh, this girl's a singer." And then it wasn't really until opening up around 13 years old that I grew the confidence to actually start singing again. because I had become really shy and introverted and honestly like kind of a little weird kid up until that point. And then I, you know, became more confident and started doing voice lessons at 13. And it was from then until the end of high school that I pursued theater. And that was how I first started doing music, was through theater.
If it makes you feel any better, you probably weren't the weird kid. It's just that's a tough time, right? But I love that you gain the confidence to be able to put yourself out there because that's not easy either, right? Like I feel like a lot of times when people want to put themselves out there like that, they're open for criticism and judgment and sometimes they're too afraid of that. But I would, we're both in the creative space. I'd rather live a life where I go ahead and put everything I can into something, try the best I could, and say that I was able to do so, than not do it, and then go back and 40 years from now and be like, I should have tried that. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. That's just my mentality of it. So I'm glad that you always had that love for music, but I'm glad that you took it and you're like, I'm gonna actually really take this seriously
and connect with it. I think too, when you're a kid, unless it's bridged with you, you don't have that bridge connecting you to it. It's really hard to pursue it because we're just kids, we don't know what confidence is. I mean, we're confident, but we don't really know how to do things yet, and that was a huge thing, was that the music in my family was from my dad, and when they got divorced, he was somewhere else, and so I loved my mom and my grandpa, but they just weren't musical people. They were more like math and engineering. And then when, so like I think there's something to also be said about when you kind of don't have like a lot of money as a kid, and then when you also don't have like a lot of people in your family who have the same connection to creativity as you really have to fight harder within yourself to stay connected to that and to still say that that's what you want to do.
Wow, that's beautifully said. I couldn't agree with you more because you're right. There are a lot of times, like I said earlier, like that's just an awkward age. So I know there's a lot of times when you try something and then you just kind of quit. But you're right. You build that bridge of connection towards it and you fall in love with it. And then it becomes a little bit easier. And yeah, I'm not saying there's not good days and bad days, but then it becomes easier. And it shows the type of person that you are, right? Because you gain that love for music from watching your father. And when that split happened, you could have easily said, you know what, he's not here. I'm going to go ahead and not pursue this. But the fact that it somehow found you, it was destiny. It was meant to be. It was always your calling for you to go back to it. That's what I believe because
I believe in destiny too.
Yeah, good.
Hey, everything else, it's like so many ways to separate from that, and I still found a connection to it, and you did too,
Yeah, I did too. Despite the fact that all my conduct grades were poor, I was getting, in my report card, it was conduct and effort. It was like C's and D's because I was just talking in class, but and they would always put in the comments social butterfly. I remember, speaking of which, I tried to scribble out one of those grades. My mom caught me on the porch. Wasn't good. Yeah, but I tried to.
I've done that before too. Like I had tried to sign my mom's signature, and then I was like, "Ooh, that's not good." And so then I erased it. I did it like a couple more times. And I remember my like 5th grade teacher came back to me and she was like, "Is this your mother's signature?" And it's like clearly been written like a bunch of times, and I was like, "Yes!"
Yeah. These kids don't know what it's like to try to forge something. I actually feel bad for them in a way because we all have that experience. Like there was one time where I forget what I did, probably talking in school, whatever, shouldn't have been. And the teacher was like, "You need to write a note to the class and read it." Talk about like embarrassing, right? Like here I am, I have to write a note and then I have to read it. And she said, but your mom has to sign it. So my dumbass, right? I go, hey, I took a blank piece of paper. I go, hey, Mom, can you write your name? I want to learn how to spell it. I want to learn how to write it. And she did. Sure enough, she did. She just wrote her name on top. And I wrote my note, whatever. the next morning, I was getting ready for school. I think I was like 12 at the time. I was getting ready for school, and all of a sudden I see her have the note in her hand and being like, "Oh, you didn't tell me that this is the reason why." And so I tried to avoid telling my mom that I had to write this note basically as a punishment. And so my mom was not happy that I
Oh, wow.
tried to pull the wool over her eyes there. No, she wasn't
I
wasn't a happy camper.
started out genius, and then you ended up getting caught. So,
Yeah, that I feel like a lot of the times in my life that seems to be the status quo. In my brain it starts like a good idea, but then it ends up not being a good idea.
I had can I also tell you of like my vandal story from being in like elementary school and
Please.
so I had this started off as a great idea too. I learned how to like get rid of all my baby teeth and start making money off of the tooth fairy. And I had lost like 5 teeth in 1 week because I just was like learning how to pick my teeth out. And I made a lot of money and I was gonna spend it on Nintendo DS games. And but then I wanted to bring the money to school and show it all to the kids, and they're like, "Whoa, how'd you make that?" And I was like, "Cause I've been losing my teeth." And so then I put it in my desk, and like I went back to my desk, and it was gone, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And obviously I started crying and told the teacher about it, and they were like. I told the teacher about it. I was like, I lost all this money. And she's like, well, why did you bring $35 to school? and and this is back in like 2008, so $35 was like a lot of money, and
It was.
especially for like a fourth grader. And she's like, "Why'd you bring $35 to school?" And I was like, cause I was, and I saw on the board it said Who Haven Charity, which is like the animal charity to donate to the owls. And I was like, I was gonna donate it to Who Haven, and then all like the PTA parents found out about it, and they're like, "Oh, poor Chloe." And I remember I was in the talent show that week. I was the MC. My mom was going to pick me up, and I was like up on stage practicing, and the moms went up to my mom and they're like, I just feel so bad for your daughter. She brought all that money to school to donate to Who Haven, and somebody stole it from her. And my mom was like, she did what? And she's like, she knew that I was not donating that money to Who Haven,
Yeah.
that I was showing off $35 at school. So
She knew you were full of it. Yeah. The crazy stories, because I feel like we all have a similar story of like just doing stupid things, and it's part of life, right? Like I hate the story, but I love it at the same time. So Pokemon cards were super big, and they're big now, right? They have a comeback all of a sudden, yeah. But they were super big when I was growing up, and I'm from Massachusetts, in the city that I was going to school in. I think I was in third or fourth grade. Third and fourth graders took the same bus as eighth graders. I don't know what group of people sat in a round table and said, you know what is a great idea? A bunch of 14-year-olds who are hormonal and crazy, and stick them with a bunch of like 8 and 9-year-olds that don't know anything. I don't know who thought it, but somebody did. I digress. So I'm on the bus, and there's this eighth grader who's trying to sell me a Pokemon card. And I'm like, oh, I don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. He's like, hey, I'll hold it for you. If you bring me $1 in tomorrow, I'll give it to you. I'm like, okay, sounds good. So I go into my mother's wallet. Now, I don't know anything about money, whatever. I took $1, one bill. I go into school the next day. I give it to the kid. He gives me the Pokemon card. I come home. My mom is pissed off. She's screaming, and she goes, who took $100 out of my wallet? And I was 8 or 9, so I didn't know any concept of money, nothing. So I took the one, and so she's screaming her head off. Who went into my wallet and took it?
Oh my god!
And then like, and now I look back on it and I'm like, did that kid know? Did that kid screw me? He had to have known. Like, right? Like, he had to have been like, oh, I just made 99
bucks? Like,
yeah.
seriously, as a kid too?
a profit. Yeah, he made a $99 profit on me.
Oh
But
my gosh.
yeah, yeah, it was and my mom was not happy, and I think I got I was in a lot of trouble.
You.
Yeah, yeah. At the risk of sounding like I love my mom, of course, but I got my you know what beat. It wasn't pretty. Let's just say that. So, but I laugh at it now. That's all you can do. I mean, there's no reason
Yeah.
to be upset about it.
I mean, I can't imagine, like, cause I wasn't like a bad kid, but I know I traumatized my family. Like, I know that raising a kid is just one of the most excruciating things for a person to do. And
Yeah.
even as a good kid, I was like the Tasmanian devil at certain points, so I couldn't even understand what that means to be a mom or parent, you know?
Yeah, and it's part of the territory, right? Like it's not always going to go well and you have to take the blows. And I think that kind of goes with what we were saying earlier about how when you're a creative person or when you're a person that's wants to be in a creative space, you're almost curious of the world, so you push the envelope a little bit or you try things because I feel like I would say that I'm similar to you. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was definitely curious. I definitely tried a lot of things I shouldn't have tried,
Yeah.
and I pushed the buck a little bit. But I think that's because, or took the buck. No, but that's because I think we want to go ahead and just explore, and I feel like that's just part of who we are, and eventually it circles back. So let's circle back to you now and your music. So when did you start writing your own original music now?
I actually had this epiphany in college, and it was because I had really been on the top of my game in theater, musical theater. But then I was like, wait a minute, I couldn't really name you anything about musical theater shows and stuff outside of the stuff that I already do, but I could give you encyclopedic knowledge about Radiohead, Red Hot Chili Peppers, all these alt rock bands, all this rock music. And I was like, I gotta just start writing my own music, you know? That's what I believed at that point. I was like, at that point, my destiny was like, if you keep going in this direction, you're not going to be doing what you've ultimately been, you know, wanting to do. And so that's when I started writing music, was actually like when I was 20. And it seemed like really late in life, and I also didn't even know how to play guitar yet. So I actually never really sang contemporary music or any rock music. I was really like in my lane with theater, musical theater, and I was afraid about starting over, but I kind of knew that I had to. Otherwise, it's like do or die. And I, what I did, and this is kind of how we segued into this like viral video on YouTube, was I started a YouTube channel on my own to kickstart this new journey with doing my own music. And it was like a way for me to hold myself accountable, upload covers for the first time, because this was the first time I was ever doing that type of music before,
Yeah.
and doing it like once per week and teaching myself guitar. And then I started writing, from then on the momentum started building, and I started writing my own music the way I do now.
Yeah, I think I read that you have taken that DIY approach of music production and you've learned along the way, which, sometimes that I feel like that's just so helpful because then you know all the intricacies of yourself as a performer, but also just like, wow, like I'm actually learning as I'm going instead of, hey, if you do this, this, and this. And, but even with that, right? Like when you make music or you do anything creative, there's not a set checklist that if you push out 50 songs in a year, you'll be famous. Like that's not how it works.
No.
And so I think that's awesome that you just held yourself accountable, kept pushing content, and it led to that viral moment that you're talking about for sure. Yeah.
People really underestimate that like an artist is also an entrepreneur. And
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's starting anything, like, you have to start from zero. And I've read like a lot of books. I studied economics in college, so um, I've always kind of had that like bigger picture type of thinking, but
Yeah.
starting small and almost like kind of how athletes and business people do it, except it's different with art because you really have to like trust your soul at the same time. It's different. But even the Beatles, it's like I read this book called Outliers, and it talks about the qualities of like what creates an outlier or like a genius or like the people that we dream about becoming. And it's really just these random things. Like the Beatles had 10,000 hours. They played their 10,000 hours in a small bar in Liverpool. And they didn't just start out as geniuses. Like they had these weird circumstances that led them to their genius. And then that's how we see them today. But that's also how the 10,000 hour rule became a thing.
Yeah, I find stories like that just so fascinating. Like I forget who told me this, but somebody said to me that like Leonardo da Vinci, nobody bought his work when he was alive, and then when he passed away, he's now this renowned artist of all time. And so it's art, right? Like what's popular now might not be popular in 10 years. So I love that you took that risk and you just kept pushing content regardless of how others may view it, because as I mentioned earlier, it is challenging, right? Like you're opening yourself up to this world, and yeah, we'd like to think that a bunch of people are going to say, "Chloe, you keep going, girl. Go ahead, do your thing." But the truth is you're going to be met with people who are upset with themselves of not taking that risk, right? And so they project onto somebody else who is taking that risk, right? Like
Yeah.
the amount of times I hear somebody say things like, "Oh, another podcast, blah blah blah," and I'm like, it's hard. Like you got to put it out there. You got to do the best you can, whether it's gonna work or not. And again, if anything, it's a fun hobby, right? Like if anything,
Yeah.
but
You have to.
it is challenging, and making that leap is challenging, especially in today's world because we are in an attention seeking economy, and so
Yeah, for sure.
it's 5-10 seconds. When you were making YouTube videos, it's 5-10 minutes, and now it's like 5-10 seconds, and it's terrifying, right? To put yourself out there, make that leap, but you did it,
Yeah.
and now it has allowed you to be able to be on a national scale like America's Got Talent, which we'll talk about in a few short moments. It's allowed you to be able to make your own music. But before that, did you ever have a moment of doubt within yourself about giving up? And if you did, what pulled you through?
Honestly, just as recently as this past year, I mean, there's always going to be those moments where you run into yourself. And what I think that is that, of course, I get into doubt. I had doubt very recently. But what that is that that business model has expired. That system is no longer relevant to where you are now. So you kind of have to surrender the goal to finish the race, and then you graduate to this new level of understanding yourself, and then all of a sudden your self-belief kicks back in. And so because there's so many times when I feel doubt. I mean, there's so many areas and stages of my life where I've had insecurities, and I'm still, they always come back. But what's important is constantly be moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more, right? Like they'll creep in, but it's important to keep moving forward so that way they stay behind, right? And so I think that that's a really good perspective. I remember somebody sharing with me that whenever you do anything creative, you almost have to have this car mentality of you got to keep moving forward, and your rear view mirror has to be very small. That's where your insecurities are, and they're behind you.
Yeah.
But your front mirror is this big. You got to keep going. That's the goal.
And
And so,
there's also
yeah.
just really like you need to know you. Like there's nobody who can know you and know what your gift is other than you. And I also have, I have faith and belief in God. And so I think that that's also been something recently that's really changed how I see my gift and how
Mm-hmm.
I understand it, and what keeps it alive, to be honest. Because I think I can't just claim that I succeeded on doing things alone and succeeded on doing things in these own systems that I created. Eventually those expire and you're left with nothing but yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
somehow I still ended up managing to stay on the map. And it's like, where does this map come from? Like, we didn't create it. And that's kind of ultimately why I think it ties to destiny too. So, yeah.
Is that faith of yours something you always had? Is it something you gained in adulthood?
It's I think that both.
Okay. Yep.
Like I think I without knowing that, I always did have faith and belief. And
Mm-hmm.
I think this past year um, is when I truly found it for myself.
I love that. I feel the same way personally. I went through a phase in my life. So I grew up super religious, going to church, doing all that, doing everything that you're supposed to do. And then I went through a phase in my life where I would say I was I don't want to say atheist because and perhaps this is a controversial take. I believe everybody believes in something, whether or not it's God. I believe if you're not worshiping God, you're worshiping, TV idols or whatever. Like that's my personal belief is that you do worship something. And it may not always be God or it may not always be a god in other people's religions, but it is something that you are. Oh, I want to be more like Taylor Swift. Oh, I want to be more like that. Like
Yeah,
there's something you're idolizing, and so some people may be like that's not true, but that's my personal belief.
I
But
agree with you there. That's like really good because it's like whether or not we claim to believe in something, we do.
right,
We just don't realize or admit that that's what we're doing. And that's why it is important to make sure that you kind of come to terms with that and decide to finally believe in something that is ultimately going to guide you in the right ways.
yeah. Yeah, and to that, right? Like because I went through that, and the reason why I say that is because I went through that phase, right? Like I went through a phase where I claimed I was atheist, but I was believing in things, just things that were not helpful to me and allowing me to grow as an individual. And so I found God a little after that, right? Like
Yeah.
you almost have to go through a bunch of bad things before you're like, "Oh my goodness, God is there." What like
Mm-hmm.
and there's other things too, right? Like personally another reason why I kind of altered my thought process and went back and reverted was because I went through this phase where I'm like, man, there's just so much bad going on. There has like, even if you believe in science, right? There's an equal and opposite force, and so if there's all this evil, there's got to be all this good somewhere.
Exactly. My mom was the one who told me that because there were stages where I don't want to speak on behalf of her, but she became an atheist too, and during my childhood, and that kind of like heavily influenced me in some ways. But she recently said that she had to see hell to find God. And I think
Yes.
ultimately, because I'm not going to go into my experience on that journey, but I can say the same thing that I had to really see what was down below to believe that, okay, there is something high above.
Me too. We all do it, right? And I agree with that, right? Like you have to go through hell to see heaven. And I
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And so thank you for being so brave and just sharing that because I love when I can relate to people on this level because sometimes I feel like, in some aspects of life, you get silenced and that's hard for me, right? Like we talked about like our upbringing and who I was as a kid in high school, whatever. But I was, true story, I was that kid that was praying at lunch and people would make fun of me because I was thanking God for my meal. And
Cool.
but you know what though, like it ties into what we said earlier. Like I needed that because that showed that I do have strength in me because I did it every day, despite the fact that. So it's almost like I needed that to prove to myself. God was testing me. He was showing me. He was saying, if you show your love for me, I'm going to test you and show you how strong you are.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to look at life, right? Like one of the things I love is like just knowing that God is always there. God is in control. No matter what, God is in control. And somebody said this to me one time and it stuck with me cuz we all go through that challenge in that season in life when we say, "Yeah, but if God loved me, why am I going through this? Like why am I suffering?" And I remember somebody said to me, even God's son suffered, Jesus suffered. So what makes you think you're not going to suffer? Right. And so once I heard that, it changed my perspective.
Yeah, that's a really good one too. And I definitely I love your strength and your beliefs. I also think that there's those moments too, man, where there's something to be said about the just I don't want to say that it's just like it because I don't it's more than magic, but it's like how incredible that you were like a kid that was just praying for thanks at lunch, and it's like that's not random, you know? Like sometimes how do kids just do that? How do kids possess that light? And that's kind of where I believe, a lot of that comes from too, is that there's a light that we receive, and
Hmm.
um I have a lot of strength in myself now because of coming clean with that, and I'm glad that you do too.
I love that. I could talk to you all day about
Yeah.
this. You're the best. We'll go back into you now. I love that we're able to relate on that level. I love talking about God. So thank you again because I love that content. It to me this is enriching conversations. This is why I do this. I do this podcast so I can have conversations with effectively strangers, right? Like, yeah, we've talked here and there, and then we become friends afterwards. Like it's the best thing in the world. Like this is what I love about like just one doing this, but also this opportunity would not happen without God, and we did not meet by accident. So
Never.
thank you, God.
Thank you, God.
People adopt dogs, cats, but a singing parrot. How did that happen?
you know, that is also just one of those random situations, those crossroads. My sister is a hippie and she lived in California. And so she was the one who first rescued him. And he was at the time living with this terrible man who locked him in a cage his whole life, and he actually never learned how to fly because he had been caged up. And so I think he went to jail and had like a DUI or something, and my sister gave him money that he could use for his bail so that she could take the bird from him. And so that's how she got into custody of Gallagher. And then she, because she's a hippie, she had to get it, like she was moving from place to place and she ultimately couldn't take care of him, so she passed him to us. And then that's how Gallagher came into our lives, and he was like in his mid 30s when he did. So
And they can live for a long time, right?
yeah.
Like some birds can outlive humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild. I mean, that's kind of the weirdest thing about a lot of this too, is it's like we're gonna have him for like the rest of our life. He's not just like gonna come in like dogs do, you know?
Yeah.
He's like having a 3-year-old for the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. So that viral moment with Gallagher joining in vocals, how did that even come about to be? Like, how did you know that he could sing? Like, was this something you were experimenting with? Like, how did that play out?
One of those on another situation where I don't know how, but he could see me through music.
Hmm.
And I I still can't really explain how or why, but he didn't really have um an interest in people or in connecting with things. He was
Okay.
very like he was a rescue, And
Yeah.
I was always the singer, and so when I started singing, he really opened up and started trusting me. And then he started singing too. And I was like, yeah, girl, I never knew this about you. And but he does. And that's just another incredible thing too, is like, we don't really know how he started learning some of these things that he says or sings. Like, he's got this jazz voice that I don't
Yeah.
think I've really ever done with him all that much, but he's clearly, you know, he's clearly had his past lives and has picked up on things. And so the music just brings him, you know, brings him to that, I guess. Yeah.
He's got the it factor. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So then you audition for America's Got Talent, and I could be incorrect, but there's kind of like two auditions, right? Because don't you have to submit some sort of tape to prove that you're even good enough to be on television, and then you actually do the televised one, right?
Yeah. So also, like, just so we can clarify things, it wasn't my idea to submit for America's Got Talent. They found us and
Oh, no
scouted.
way.
They scouted me because of the video that was online, and they were like, this would be a terrific act to have on the show. And I was kind of like, but he's kind of he's kind of mean, and he's kind of like, he kind of just does his own thing.
Yeah.
But they were like, well, if you want to do this, like, I'm still, this guy, this talent agent, he was like, if you still want to do this, like, still audition, just audition. We can see where this goes. So I did, and me and him did our thing, and they ultimately told us that even if there's no guarantee of him singing, they just really love our whole deal with each other, and they know
Yeah.
we can sing, so they just had us continue forward with the show for the televised audition. So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of why they were okay with that, because at the end of the day, it was the audition for the audition. It wasn't for like the actual show. I mean, I guess when you move on from the auditions, how the show works. I actually don't really know.
And the storyline of you two, right? It is a massive stage, and obviously it's nerve wracking, right? And like you said, like he marches to the beat of his own drum, which was evident. But how was it for you? Because you're singing, right? And you have a talent, right? Your singing is a talent, but it's hard because you're kind of there for his talent also,
Yeah.
and so your talent almost gets negated because his talent is the one they're looking for. But in my head, and I've listened to some of your music as well, but in my head, I was watching it and I was like, but she can sing. So, you know what I mean? Like, so, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's a weird dichotomy that is played. So, do you understand what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
Oh, trust me, I have had these conversations in my head. Uh,
Yeah.
like, that was just, if I'm being really honest, that was something that I had like, that was something that I came to grips with, like, long before we even went on the show. And it was something that was, I didn't know how it was going to go. And I was also prepared with the fact that this is TV, and they chose this story whether or not it was um the one that we should have. I guess it's like, you can't take it personally.
No.
And then at the end of the day, I would be on TV, and it wasn't gonna compromise anything that was gonna hurt Gallagher, or at the end of the day, really gonna hurt me. And so it's like, just go for it. And so yeah, I think that that is just the truth. Is it's like, my mom and a lot of the people that were, cast and crew were like, she can still sing, but that's just kind of how I got on, though. So
Yeah.
there wasn't really a way to work around that without kind of throwing away Gallagher. And I don't know. I personally, me, I just think it wasn't meant to be for me.
Yeah.
You know?
And sometimes it's for the best, right? Like we talked about earlier, like God will give you an opportunity, and if something doesn't happen, He's protecting you from something. Again, that's another
Yep.
mentality that I've changed, right? Like you've gone for jobs or you've asked people to come on your podcast and it doesn't work out, and then you sit there and you're discouraged, which is normal, right? Like we're humans, so
Right.
I'm not Iron Man, so like, and what I mean by an iron heart, like obviously things sting, but then afterwards, if you take a step back and go in with the lens of, you know what, something is protecting me from something, or something is not going to go well if I do,
Mm-hmm.
going with that mindset and know that the Lord has your back, you'll be okay.
That's exactly how I saw that too. Even if in the moment I didn't fully see that, there was something in the moment where I had that discernment kind of acting there for me. Like it was a weird I'm not going to lie. It was a weird experience because I don't really think anybody at that point in my life had my back in the way that I needed.
Hmm.
So I was really just listening to my own tune, and I don't even know how I had that yet because
Hmm.
there was a lot of things that um, I hadn't had a lot of strength in, and I was very confused at that time, and so um, for some reason I just ultimately knew, even though the world around me was telling me all these things and telling me how to be and telling me that this was the chance of my lifetime for me, and I just kind of knew it wasn't, you know. But I also was so grateful at the same time because it was like this was like the first time I'd ever been on TV before, and I was so grateful. And it was such a blessing at the same time. But it's difficult when the world is telling you so much about you and you're just trying to see things for how they should really be.
Well, I'm proud of you for taking the shot, and I'm also proud of you for what this is worth of how you're handling it, because I love how you are just being so candid and saying that in the back of your mind and in your heart, you kind of knew that yeah, this is an opportunity, sure, but you also, not that you were, I don't think that you were being cynical. I don't think anything like that. I think you were taking it for what it is at face value of like, this is a televised event. They're gonna go in with certain storylines to fit a narrative because that's how TV works, and yeah, it's marketed as America's greatest talent show, essentially. But realistically, there's like, and I will say this so that way it's not someone who's on the show will say it. It's very clear that there's many, many things that are just storyline driven for television and to be televised. And it sounds like that was probably the biggest thing, was like, hey, a singing bird and a girl, and it was more so of like that was what was to be televised, but it did not happen by accident.
Yeah.
It happened for a reason,
Yeah.
and now you've evolved because it taught you that you can be strong. It taught you that you have strength, and it taught you that now that you had that experience, that now you're able to go ahead and maybe you're able to help somebody, or maybe if you see something down the line, you're like, hey, that experience isn't for me, and so
Yeah.
I think that it was a blessing, and that's how you have to view it as. Yeah.
And it's also cool because, like, even though I wasn't alone, like, my mom came with me and I had a lot of friends supporting me. I also still felt like in the way that I was seeing things, I was alone. But
Yeah.
I know even back then, I wasn't truly alone.
Yeah. Since then, though, your music has evolved. As I mentioned, you had an EP release last month.
Hmm.
Where are you getting your inspiration from in that realm, and how have you grown as an artist since that experience?
Yeah, so that's a huge timeline story because I actually wrote the music for that before I even came to Nashville, because I live in Nashville, Tennessee right now, if that wasn't known. And I moved here in the summer of 2023. So I'd written those songs to be released around that time, and I was working with a producer. And then when I got here, um, I went through one of my first learning lessons in the music industry and had to kind of abandon everything with that dude and start over with a new producer and entirely remake the songs. So they were the songs that were supposed to be my EP. And in that time, from 2024 to now, I've just finally got them released. So that's kind of what I've been doing in honestly, most of my like time spent here. My focus has just been trying to get released this EP because up until that point, I didn't have any bodies of work that truly represented me. So it was like this very excruciating journey of just having to fight for my own beliefs and be like, nope, this is real. Like, this is, this is who I actually am. And then at that time, but too, I had the show going on and hadn't even had this music out yet. And so I guess like my original music is the real me. And if you ever want to know who the real me is, I would just say listen to my original music, because that's where I get to be exactly who I don't just want to be, but exactly who I really am. And it's a mixture of unapologetically, but it's also a mixture of what my soul says about me. But since then, my soul has really grown, and I haven't even began writing my new music yet, because I feel like I just finished this transformative like era of my life where I just needed to get the music out and really release anything that was holding me back, because it was connected to the things that I experienced in making making the music. So I just can't wait to see where the new me goes. So I'm still writing about it.
That's a amazing way to frame it. I love it. I love everything you said, because and that's why I said in the intro, like, your music is authentic, and I can tell that from the lyrics. I've listened to them. So I think that I encourage anybody to check it out, and we'll definitely have you plug all that stuff in a few short moments. If you could give advice to a younger version of yourself, what would you tell her?
Well, it's kind of hard to tell my younger self anything, because I think that she had to learn exactly what she knows now. And
Yep.
she couldn't have the answers back then, otherwise she wouldn't have figured them out for herself.
I love that. That's perfect. Yeah, that's the theme of what we've discussed this entire podcast episode. So, not slighted at all.
None, not whatsoever.
We're going to play a game now called Yay or Nay. This is my segment, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question. You say yay or nay, and then you can defend why, okay? If you feel like you're like, hey, this is clearly a yay or a nay because of this, feel free, but you don't have to. Okay. Yay or nay? A sandwich tastes better when somebody else makes it.
Yay!
Don't you agree? Yeah, it's a yay, right?
It's a total yay, especially if it's made with like the cheapest of ingredients.
Somehow, some way, in my pantry, or in my fridge, none of those ingredients, I can ever whip up a sandwich as good as if somebody makes me that sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be the same ingredient. We could be standing side by side, and I can take a bite of mine, and they can take a bite of, and I can take a bite of the one that they made, and theirs is going to taste way better.
That would be a really cool thing to do as a couple, is to just make your own sandwich and then switch.
Yeah. Oh, that. Not only is she a singer, songwriter, performer, she's also a couple therapist. Look at that. She created a great date. I should have added that in the intro. Here you go. Couples therapist. There you go. I love that. That's a beautiful date. No, it's true. It's true. The group photo where you look the best is the one that everybody else hates.
Yep. Oh, yay. Sorry. Yay. No, you're so right. That is so true. I don't know why, but it's like, it's almost that irony. The irony, it just follows you, especially in those group pics. I've never heard that before. Whoa.
Yeah, yeah, right. Well, you're like, what do you mean? I look the best, and they're like, no, we don't like that one, and then you get outvoted because 8 people prefer the other one,
And then
and you're like,
you're blinking. And
yeah,
like the one that they choose, you're blinking. The one that you liked where you look the best, nobody's blinking, but they still choose the one where you're blinking.
yeah. They just don't like how they smiled or something. Yeah, but otherwise, it's a great. I feel like it's the same. Yeah.
But then there's like a clear mistake happening in the one that they choose, and it's with me, and it's
Yeah.
like totally obvious, and they don't choose that, or they want to choose that one.
Sounds like we need to take a group photo where it's you, me, and one other person. We can always outvote that person because aside from that, we're gonna lose every time.
We just need to start combating these groups together, man.
That's right. The best ideas come when you're doing something else and you can't do that idea.
Ooh, yeah, yay, yay.
Yeah.
Because it's like a butterfly.
Yes, and then it's gone.
Mm.
I find my best ideas are like clearly when I can't stop and like write down my idea, or like I'll be driving and I'm like, you can't pull over, take out a little notepad and write. I mean, maybe you could, I don't know, but I don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's my fault.
No, you have such a good point there, because like there are times when I'm like, oh, I know exactly how to write exactly what I need, and I'm still learning. Like, nope, because like as soon as you think you know, you lose it. You
Yes.
lose every good idea. So then it's like you have to start over again and be confused again and figure it out, and then you find that sweet butterfly idea again, and then you think that you can just keep on replicating it, and you can't.
Yep. The second you remember a great comeback, the argument's already over.
Nay. Well,
Mm.
I've learned how to have better comebacks in the moment.
Okay, so you've learned how to be a little bit more like a whippersnapper.
Yeah, but it has
Yeah.
to be like if as long as I'm doing it intuitively, you know? Cuz
Yep.
it's like how you get your good ideas. Like if you kind of treat arguments like improv,
Yeah.
you'd be surprised how much more arguments you can win.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, you know what? I need ultimate debater. There you go.
There-
You are an ultimate. All right, good to know. Yeah, I've learned so much about you in this episode. All right. Chat pack. I'm gonna take a random question from the chat pack. Let's see what fate wants you to answer today. All right. Okay, this is okay. I will ask this, but if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. Okay. If you were to die tomorrow, what would you want people to most remember you for?
Oh. I think I would honestly, I think I would want them to most remember me for my original music.
Mm.
I think so, cuz like everything, I know that sounds like obviously there's more to me than just my music, but everything that I needed to say is right there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, because that one said the word die on it, I'm going to take one from the kid and let's see if we have, let's see, because they won't say that. They'll say unalive.
Okay, cool.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Let's see what the kid one says. These ones are a little bit goofy at times, so we'll see. If you won $10,000, what would you do with the money?
Oh, that's good. Okay, so I'd probably, let's see, what do I want? I think what I would honestly do is I would keep like 1,000 of it for myself to be able to do what I want to do, and then I'd put the rest of the 9,000 in like a savings and be.
Yeah. That's how you know we're getting old. That high yield savings account. You're like, yeah, go ahead, just throw it in there.
If it was
Accumulate interest.
$100, I'd be like, I'd be spending that stuff immediately. But 10,000, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll put it in like a 401k.
Yeah, I need some sort of retirement. These are the chat packs. You know how I got them? I got them at a yard sale for 20. Actually, I think I got them for free. They were like 25 cents, and the woman was like, "No, you can have them." So now I use them for my podcast.
Those are really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I like it. It's like random conversation starters, but I use them at the end.
They're good.
Chloe, thank you so much for taking time, chopping it up with me. You'll always be a friend of the Reyes Reflection podcast. I've just sworn you in. This is my official process, all right? So whenever I need it's like being an Avenger though. It comes with high stakes. So if I call you up and I'm like, "Chloe, you got anything new coming up? I need you back on." You're like, "I got you."
I'm gonna
all right?
magically have to transport. Yeah. Thanks, Nathaniel. This was like one of the coolest things that I've done in so long. I'm so excited for this episode.
It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. For those who want to connect with you, follow you, listen to your music, please plug yourself in however you want so that way people can get their eyes and ears on Chloe.
Right. So the best and easiest way to find me is, of course, on YouTube. Just check out my name, Chloe Alexander. All my music and also my covers, originals, and videos with Gallagher are posted there. But my new recent music, King of the World EP, is on iTunes and Spotify and wherever you stream your music. So go ahead and listen to it there under Chloe Alexander.
All right. Love it. Love it. That is going to do it for this episode of the Reyes Reflection Podcast. Big thanks to our sponsors, Jocko Fuel, Mad Rabbit Tattoo Aftercare, and SMACKIN Sunflower Seeds for supporting today's episode. And to all our listeners, remember, may you live, may you love, and may you thrive. I'm Oprah as a dude, and I love you all.